The mysterious power of our minds to communicate across space and time is the riddle of mental telepathy. But can these connections also be experienced in our sleep? Find out next as we explore the possibilities of telepathic dreaming. The 21st century, the beginning of a new era. We stand at the threshold of a time filled with rapid change, uncertainty, and monumental possibilities. Visionaries have pointed to this time as a turning point for humanity. One such man was the American clairvoyant Edgar Cayce. From holistic healing to spiritual development, the world that Edgar Cayce predicted is now emerging, inviting us to explore the new millennium.
Dreams are a universal human experience, and they're a safe, reliable way to explore the depths of the soul. Sleep research has clearly shown that we can dream about other people. This mind-to-mind communication in the dream shapes a deeper understanding of human relations. Clearly, dream telepathy is an important hint about the expanded potentials of the mind that are within our reach. I'm Mark Thurston. Today I'm joined by Dr. Doug Richards, author and research investigator of Expanded Human Potentials. Welcome to the show, Doug.
Thanks, Mark.
Let's talk a little bit about this mind-to-mind communication. How strong is the evidence that it's real?
Well, the evidence is quite strong. In fact, most of the reports from people of psychic experiences come from dreams. And in 1886, a book was published called Phantasms of the Living, which was a collection of very well-researched and verified cases, many of which were dream telepathy incidents, things where someone would have a dream that someone had been in an accident, and the next morning it would be verified that at the exact time of the dream that the person had in fact been in an accident. Then a little bit later, in the 1960s, psychiatrist Montague Ullman discovered that people who were his clients, when he was analyzing their dreams, were having dreams about his problems, apparently received telepathically. And that then led him into an extensive series of experiments to discover whether you could rigorously prove that these were truly telepathic dreams.
That must have been unnerving to Dr. Ullman at first.
I think it happens to many psychiatrists. Anyone who works a lot with dreams begins to see these kinds of telepathic dreams coming in where they aren't expected.
Now, are there hints or clues that we could look for in a dream to suggest that it's probably going to be telepathic or psychic in some way?
Well, often there's no hint at all. In my own telepathic dreams, I never find out until the next day or the next week if it's a precognitive dream, perhaps. But for many people, they'll have an unusually vivid or literal dream where it will be just a clear, sharp image that tells them that this is an out-of-the-ordinary sort of dream. At other times, the dream will wake you up, and there'll be just surprise and an urge to act. You'll just know that you need to call someone on the phone to find out if something happened to them. And then finally, sometimes the dream just feels especially meaningful or inspiring. Perhaps it's a deceased relative who has given you some inspiring words, and you know that that's something that's important for you to act on.
So these are probably just some examples, and it would be different for different people even.
Be very different for different people. And when you're paying attention to your dreams, you learn by slow experience which ones are the cues that you, in fact, are getting some kind of psychic information.
Well, give us an example of a psychic dream.
Well, there are many, many different kinds of psychic dreams. One, for example, that Edgar Cayce analyzed was from a stockbroker who dreamed that he was, someone was trying to sell him a radio. But when he opened the door, there was poison on the doorknob. And he was wondering what this meant. It didn't sound like a very good dream. And Edgar Cayce said, this means don't buy the radio stock that you were going to buy. And he didn't buy it, and sure enough, the stock crashed, and he did pretty well.
Well, if I have a dream and I interpret it and I see that part of it proves to actually be psychic, even telepathic, can I assume that the whole dream was therefore literally true and psychic?
Well, what's interesting is that most dreams are a mixture of symbolic and literal material. And so you have to be very careful that if you see a literally true part, that you don't interpret the whole thing as literal. There's a good example from one of my own telepathic dreams, a little bit precognitive, that is, it saw a little into the future. I dreamed one night that there was a car accident in front of me, and that a woman fell out of the car, and she was lying on the street, and the breakfast that she'd bought at a drive-thru was lying all over her, and she was just lying on the ground. I drove all the way to work kind of worried because this was a very prominent dream. Nothing happened. When I got to work and walked in the door of the stairwell, a woman who was walking down the stairs carrying her breakfast tripped and fell on the floor and was lying there just like the woman in the dream with things scattered all over. And so there was a literally true dream, but with a symbolic change from a car accident to a falling down the stairs accident. And this is very common in dreams, that you'll see a symbolic shift of some sort.
Is there a single word that summarizes the basic principle behind dream telepathy?
A single word. I think the basic principle is connectedness. That is, it is an evidence that there is a much greater connectedness than we're often aware of, that even in our sleep we're connected, that perhaps even when we're awake at an unconscious level, there's communication going on between us that shows that really we are all one and not separate people.
Connectedness. Dream telepathy is a powerful reminder about the ways that we are connected to each other. No matter how much daily life makes us feel cut off from one another, our dreaming minds seem to operate in a realm where communication and understanding come easier.
We live as individuals. Despite our interaction with other people and the bonds we create, the feeling of being apart from everything else is ever present. But perhaps this sense of separation is just one piece of the story of who we are. Since ancient times, spiritual teachings have tried to remind us that beneath the surface of all things, there is an underlying oneness. We are connected by a great ocean of mind and spirit, with unlimited depth and never-ending horizons. It is our dream life that allows us to catch a glimpse of our own souls. In our dreams, this experience of unity comes easily. Of course, not every dream gives us this taste of deep connections. But from time to time, each of us has a dream of wisdom that reminds us how much we really are a part of everything else. A telepathic dream of mind-to-mind communication. Among the teachers and philosophers who have spoken of this kind of special dreaming was the American clairvoyant Edgar Cayce. Dream telepathy should not be thought of as an invasion of personal privacy, nor as a way to gather secrets about someone else. It operates solely to help us better understand and harmonize with each other. Sometimes Cayce pointed out that the familiar people who appear in our dreams actually symbolize parts of ourselves. The experience was a dream of self-knowledge, but often he interpreted the dream as a psychic one. The dreamer had literally tuned in to the feelings and thoughts of the person who appeared. Cayce's interpretation always helped the dreamer find a way to use the dream telepathy insights to improve the relationship in waking life. When asked by curious dreamers how they could make telepathic dreams happen more often, Cayce's answer reminded them of the best way to get in touch with the deeper levels of the mind where we are all connected. It is the intention to care and to be loving that makes dream telepathy possible. Since ancient times, spiritual teachings have tried to remind us that beneath the surface of all things, there is an underlying oneness. We are connected by a great ocean of mind and spirit, with unlimited depth and never-ending horizons. It is our dream life that allows us to catch a glimpse of our own souls. In our dreams, this experience of unity comes easily. Of course, not every dream gives us this taste of deep connections. But from time to time, each of us has a dream of wisdom that reminds us how much we really are a part of everything else. A telepathic dream of mind-to-mind communication. Among the teachers and philosophers who have spoken of this kind of special dreaming was the American clairvoyant Edgar Cayce. Dream telepathy should not be thought of as an invasion of personal privacy, nor as a way to gather secrets about someone else. It operates solely to help us better understand and harmonize with each other. Sometimes Cayce pointed out that the familiar people who appear in our dreams actually symbolize parts of ourselves. The experience was a dream of self-knowledge, but often he interpreted the dream as a psychic one. The dreamer had literally tuned in to the feelings and thoughts of the person who appeared. Cayce's interpretation always helped the dreamer find a way to use the dream telepathy insights to improve the relationship in waking life. When asked by curious dreamers how they could make telepathic dreams happen more often, Cayce's answer reminded them of the best way to get in touch with the deeper levels of the mind where we are all connected. It is the intention to care and to be loving that makes dream telepathy possible.
What if dream telepathy really is an extension of our basic desire to love and be helpful to others? We might expect that many of our telepathic dreams would be about people in crisis or great need who may be calling out for help. We spoke with one dream expert who's had personal experiences to illustrate that very point.
Let me give you an example of telepathic experiences with dreams. In a particular relationship with a young boy named Christopher. Now, Christopher was about 15 years old, and he had leukemia. He was dying from leukemia. When I first met Christopher, it was in between treatments when he could still talk quite well. At one point, Christopher told me about a dream he had had. He had been actually in a coma. And while he was in this coma, and the doctors were saying that they didn't expect him to live through the hour, he had a dream that he was crossing this bridge, this small wooden type of bridge. And on the other side of this bridge was an embankment of grass. And there were several old men with long white robes and long beards, and looked so kindly and so inviting. And as he was crossing the bridge, almost getting to the other side, this old man said to him very gently, "Dying is like crossing this bridge and lying down in this soft green grass." And Christopher wanted to do this. He was ready to lie down on this grassy embankment, and he just turned around, and on the other side of the bridge, he saw his father. And his father was desperate and waving to him to come back. His father just could not let him go. And Christopher wanted to cross this bridge and essentially die. But he felt so bad for his father and so guilty that his father felt so badly that he turned around and walked back. At one point, his father, against Christopher's wishes, although the boy respected his father greatly, allowed the doctors to give him a treatment of chemotherapy that was about 10 times stronger than the usual treatments. It was an experimental treatment. This one night, I had a dream. Christopher was sitting in the bleachers, and he was hugging himself, like holding his elbows and his arms. And he was wearing a hood, like a plastic, thick raincoat hood, and a raincoat over his entire body. But he was sitting there, and he was obviously freezing cold, and his teeth were chattering, and it was, in the dream, pouring rain, buckets and buckets of heavy, heavy rain. And I could feel, as I sat beside him and as he looked into my eyes, that each raindrop felt like a hammer blow to him on his head, on his body, like an anvil beating down upon him. And it was like a sword going through my heart. It was such pain, and I knew that I was experiencing his pain. Christopher died, but he died in his garden at home during the summer, just the way he wanted.